And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here. And ladies and gentlemen, that fun time of year, not only for myself, but for footy. The state leagues are coming back, ladies and gentlemen. So I thought, let's sit down and preview some of the football that's coming up this week. And this particular episode, we got to talk VFL. Now, some people will say, well, coach, what about the VFLW? Well, this particular year, due to some rule changes, the VFLW will be starting just the tiniest bit later than regularly. So this year, we're going to preview just the men's for this episode, and we will preview the women's a little bit later on in the year when it gets a little bit closer. So, joining me, my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend that is Brendan Jaunty Rhodes. Brendan, it is great to see you again, sir, and welcome back for another season of VFL and VFLW football.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic, mate. We've been waiting 6 months for this. A lot of excitement around the new look VFL this year, a tinge of sadness as well, unfortunately, which we can touch on. But 22 teams set to go, three new ones. One we have sadly lost, uh, not by their own doing, which we spoke about late last season. But heaps of excitement, especially around the historic arrival of the Tasmania Devils.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I don't mean this sarcastically. I mean this truly. Vale, the Preston, the Bull Ants. It sucks to lose the club. It really does. I really am not
Yeah.
happy about that. It stinks to lose such a fantastic club, but unfortunately, with that does come a dawning of a new era as the Tassie Devils make their debut in both the VFL and the VFLW. So I'm super excited to see how the Devils do this year because there's a lot of names in both the men's and the women's competition as we go on we're going to sound familiar because they're Tassies that have come in. Cannot wait for it. Let's jump right into it, Brendan. Just your thoughts. I'm going to just roughly, before we even talk stories and all that. Just your thoughts on coming into this year. What are you looking forward to? Because I think the one story everybody's talking about is the increase of the Tassie Devils, but how will be the additions of the new rules that we've seen in the AFL that's also going to be here, some different things. Your thoughts on this particular season? Because I'm excited for a fun 22 team VFL season.
Well, it is going to be amazing. All the talk right now is about the Devils. As we know, they make their debut on Saturday afternoon here in Victoria. They take on a traditional old VFL team in the Coburg Lions. We're expecting an 11,500 sellout crowd at North Hobart Oval, which the VFL hasn't had outside a grand final. Certainly not in my time following the league. I think we had a
Mhm.
5.5 for a game between Frankston and Collingwood last year, but to have them hanging from the rafters at North Hobart Oval for history on Saturday will be absolutely amazing. And for those who are going to have a close eye on the Devils, I think they're going to go all right. They've put
Mhm.
together a pretty good team. Former AFL and VFL players, stars from the local state league, coming up and getting their opportunity, uh, um, including Brad Cox Goodyear, who has been a great of Tasmanian footy for a long time. He turns 33 today, I believe, actually. So happy birthday to Brad, and he's looking forward to a big one. Sam Siggins, who was on Adelaide's list over a decade ago, will celebrate his 32nd birthday when the team runs out on Saturday. So the experience is there, the class is there. Unfortunately, our former Swan, Robbie Fox, who was named the
Mhm.
captain, he won't be there. He tore a calf at training last week, so he's going to miss the first 3 or 4 weeks. And yeah, that's probably the only real downer for them and for him, because you can only be the first once, can't you?
Mhm.
And that now falls to Jai Menzie, the former Essendon forward who was named vice captain. He'll get to lead the Devils out against the Lions on Saturday. But
Yeah.
there's scanning quickly through the list. There's 3, 6, VFL 8 still going down the Tasmanian list. There's you got 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21, 23 who have played state league footy, either in the VFL, Sandful, Waffle, or even the NEFL. So they're not coming in without any short sort of experience. They'll know what to expect, and I think they might go very well.
Yeah, I sure hope so. It'd be a great story to
Um,
have Tazzy go up there. Absolutely, for sure. So let's jump right into it. And again, we'll kind of make this short and sweet. I don't want to sit here and do a lot because 22 teams is a lot. So it's going to be a fun season this year. I know the one thing I always have when it comes to me and Brendan chatting is that when do we do this? Because sometimes two, three, 4 rounds, it gets to be a lot of footy to remember. So we'll kind of make this quick. We kind of talked about it. What's going to be your story of the year? Because I mean, I'll openly say it. The Tassie Devils are going to be my story of the year. I'm going to keep track of them. They're almost going to be my second team in the VFL when it comes to it because there is going to be a little part of all of us that I think we want them to be successful. We want them to get started well because it'd be great to see the logo, the gold and the green be successful, maybe even make finals. I'm not going to hold my breath. We'll touch wood because there's some really good teams in the VFL. But for me, the story has got to be the
exactly right. There's no question. There's another couple of big stories, and we certainly can't forget about the separation over the off season of Sandringham and St Kilda, who are going it alone. Sandringham, another proud old club, they're back as a single entity, a standalone team for the first time since the 2000 season. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how they fare. I fear that they are starting more at ground zero than Tasmania, and they may find things a little bit tough. And the Saints as well, playing in the competition on their own for the first time since 2000, may find it a little bit tougher as well until they can get themselves re-established. Obviously, they have an AFL list to call on. They need to keep them fit and healthy. Those are the new clubs as such to keep an eye on. Um, the other big stories are we're going to talk about who I think might be the big risers. Though that's where stories will come in as well. Fallers are going to be hard to find, but I honestly think there's 16 or 17 clubs that can have a realistic claim, excuse me, on making the top 10, and there's probably 6 or 7 with a realistic chance going into the season to potentially win the premiership, which
Mhm.
is absolutely amazing and just what we want. There's 7 teams that if they win, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, definitely. It's always great when there's parity in the league. There's plenty of teams to come out there. I'm interesting. Again, let's get the negative out of the way. And as you said, this isn't going to be easy because there's some really strong clubs. Who do you think is going to take the biggest fall? Because there's some teams I'm looking at it going, I hope they don't fall, but I do worry that with new changes, all this stuff, another year, it'd be interesting. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle. So for you, sir, is there a team that you could see descending down the ladder a little bit?
There is, unfortunately. Um, Obviously, I've just touched on Sandringham and St Kilda, who, well, as a combined unit, they were sort of down near the bottom last year anyway, and I think they'll find it tough. Um, I, I think there's a couple of teams that sort of sat around the edge of the top 10 that may find it tough again. And I've done it the last 3 years in a row by writing Richmond off. Um, I I'm going to go back to the well again. I'm sorry, Tiger fans. You're not fall, and there'll be reasons behind that other team, but it's the second year for most of the talented young players at AFL level. So I feel that they could fall down the ladder in both competitions. Not that there was far to fall in the AFL, but they could win less games significantly without playing any worse.
Hmm.
There might be just a year of sort of growth before they can start coming back up again. The other one sadly that I am concerned about is Frankston. Um, Having made the preliminary final last year, and what a ride they gave us. They've got one of
Mhm.
the best coaches in the year in the league, and congratulations to Jackson Cornberg, who's been named to replace Zane Littlejohn as the coach of the VFL to take on Stanfield and gather around in a couple of weeks' time. But they've lost they've lost their two best coach Pines in the local Mornington Peninsula and in the SSP a couple of weeks ago. Made his debut for the Kangaroos last weekend and starred. So
Mhm.
that's brilliant, and that speaks to the depth, the development of the Frankston Football Club. They've also had some serious injuries too. Nick Burke has done a knee and will miss the season. Kobe Askew, I think it was a shoulder, so he's going to miss a large period. Their star defensive recruit, Henry Berringer, is probably going to miss half the season with injury as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if they can stay in a reasonable position, but I just think they've probably lost a little bit of depth, and they're going to be a watch for me, and it'll be through no fault of their own.
Yep.
So yeah, unfortunately, Frankston may find it tough to stay in the finals. I certainly hope they can, but they're the real watch for me this year.
Yep, you said exactly what I was thinking as I was going through the ladder. I was thinking about this as I was looking through it and doing some of the thought process. And that was the one worry is the standalone club that has that lightning in a bottle season because we saw it with Werribee. They kind of held their run for 3 years, and then you saw it got picked apart by the AFL squads and everything like that. And then this last year, they descended down the ladder. So that is my biggest. I'm with you. I worry my biggest fault. The biggest faller will be the Frankston Dolphins. I don't want it to because it was such an awesome ride to see them go through and do what they did in the VFL last year. It was absolutely amazing. Again, I cross my fingers, I touch wood. Hopefully it doesn't, but they're my biggest worry too, that I worry that they descend down the ladder a little bit. So we'll do the positive now. We got the negative out of the way. We'll do the positive. What's a team that was towards the bottom of the ladder last year that you could see a rise up and maybe even a finals berth? Who's your biggest riser this year?
Well, Tasmania, obviously, because they're coming from nowhere. Um, uh, I, I think they really can make the top 10, Tasmania, but we don't need to touch too much more on them. They're just about ready to go. They're jumping at the bit. They can't wait. The one that missed the finals, well, there's two that missed the finals last year that I'm looking forward to them playing finals and playing two and maybe even three finals this year. One is the one you just mentioned, Werribee. I think they'll be back.
Mhm.
One year of a reset. They've recruited outstanding.
Okay, so transcontinental internet sometimes really buggers things up. So we're going to try to get through this again, as always. So as we said, biggest riser. We started with Werribee. Walk me through some of the reasons why we think the Werribee Tigers could be rising up the ladder and maybe make finals this year. Attempt number two at this. Again, transcontinental internet really sometimes can really screw with a podcast when it comes to it. So let's try it again. Werribee, why are they going to rise up the ladder? Go.
Well, the Tigers, they've still got the bulk of their squad that made 2023 and 2024 grand finals and won in 2024. They've still got the great Don Brew. They've still got Lewis Pinnock. They've still got the captain Jesse Clark. All these stars around the place. Um, they have lost a key forward in Hudson Garoni, and I think the ruckman Sam Conway retired. But they've brought in Xavier Ivasic, who did very well for Geelong in the VFL last year. Charlie Lazaro, the key midfielder from Port Melbourne, former North Melbourne. Will Elliott, the key forward from the Bull Ants, 200 centimetre, a very good inclusion halfway through last year with a serious hamstring injury. And their preseason form has been pretty good as well. So they're one that I've got an eye on. They've had a little bit of a down year. They've got a new coach, Dan Lowther, comes in after coaching Geelong's AFLW team for the past few years. And congratulations to Jimmy Allen, who got himself a job as an assistant coach at St Kilda. But they just seem to hit the ground running. They're a really well run club, really well organised, and I think that they will be back in the top 10 this season. So certainly one to watch. Werribee, they had their down year, and I think they'll be back up in contention once more.
Definitely, for sure. I know there's a couple others, but unfortunately, I'm not going to mess with the internet. So we can discuss with those later on in the year. A couple of teams that I think there's two others that I know that he was really excited for. We'll have to see it. We'll put those on pause to try to get this episode through. So we apologize for that, but we will move on to it. Let's jump right to it. I know, again, we haven't even started the season, but I like to have a little bit of fun. I don't want to pick just the 10 teams that are going to make the finals. I want to really have some fun here. Grand final opponents. Who are the two teams at the end of the year are going to be matching up to fight for a flag?
Last year, I tipped two Queensland teams, and this year, well, I'm not quite going to tip two Queensland teams, but I've certainly got two Queensland teams in the top four once again, and potentially even three, depending on injuries. Brisbane Lions are having a horrible run with injury at the moment. If they actually had to cancel a practice match last week because they only had five AFL listed players available to play in that VFL game. So it'll be interesting to see how they can handle that. And that's why I've got them probably right now just out of the top four. But for me, I think Footscray, we could see the same too. We could see the same too. Footscray and Southport again.
Mhm.
Southport's recruiting has been through the roof. They have lost a couple, but they've kept all their superstars. Woodcock, Dawson, Zach Foote almost got a contract at Adelaide, but didn't. Jesse Joyce, they're all there again. And they've brought in a couple of genuine guns. Ryan Burton, straight out of Port Adelaide, is one. And I am with them. I'm with Southport. I think they can turn the tables after 3 losses in 4 years. It'll be fourth time lucky for Southport. Footscray, Footscray obviously will star again. They'll be right up there. So they're the two. It's probably pretty boring to pick the same two, but two the two that are coming back up, the two that are coming up and haven't been there, well, in one place, in one case for a couple of years, in another case for a long time. I've really got an eye on Gold Coast and Collingwood. The two that I'm really watching. Collingwood has recruited brilliantly. They've picked up, I think they picked up basically all of North Melbourne's AFL delistings for their VFL list. Will Phillips, Bryn Teakle, Eddie Ford, really going to boost their side. So I've got Collingwood as a big riser. So they're probably the main four, but I've also got Werribee, Williamstown, and the Brisbane Lions as our seven. That could definitely win the premiership, and with an eye on Coburg and Tasmania as well, who I have both in the top 10 at this stage. So I'm going for Southport and Footscray, but with a rider that Gold Coast and Collingwood are the two to really keep an eye on.
Hmm. Which I think it's kind of funny. I sat down and I went through
And
it, and I
Casey
was
Demons. I can't forget Casey Demons as well, because they're going to be good too.
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I'm 100% with you. I was going to say the same thing. I had Footscray Southport again because again, I haven't seen a lot. There hasn't been a lot of change to either side. They're both really good. Gold Coast was the other one that I was thinking about because honestly, with their additions that they had over the offseason and the fact that we could see Jamara start the season playing VFL to really begin the year, it's kind of scary, this Gold Coast team. So Gold Coast would be my outsider, maybe poking its head in, but Southport and Footscray, just like you, I had meeting in the grand final again. And a little boring to get the same matchup again, but it's hard not to see these two teams
And,
meeting up in
and
the final.
impressively too for Gold Coast is two of their AFL retirements at the end of last year, bringing, I think it's over 400 games of AFL experience. Alex Sexton and David Swallow have
Mhm.
committed to staying as full-time players in the VFL team,
Oh,
and
jeez.
so they will be there every week. They've had previously they've had veteran players come off AFL lists as assistant coaches, and they play maybe 4 or 5 away games when required. Swallow and Sexton are committed to playing the whole season, and in fact, even played in an AFL practice match a couple of weeks ago when they had a couple of guys out. So those two, Ugle Hagen, if he makes the AFL, well, then you're possibly seeing Jed Walter playing regular VFL footy.
Hmm.
So certainly watch out for the Suns. They're top three for me.
Yep, definitely 100% on that one. So really quick. I know it's not easy. We're gonna say, who do you think's winning the flag? I know, again, huge eight ball moment here. Footscray, Southport, Gold Coast. Who do you think's winning the premiership this year?
I'm with the Sharks. Finally, Southport to finally get over the line. The grand final experience and heartbreak of missing out 3 times to three very, very good opposition.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. The teams that the 3 teams they've lost to, I think, have lost 5 games between them, 4 or 5 games between them across those 3 seasons. So um, like people who followed the AFL for a long time can remember Geelong losing 4 grand finals in 7 years, and they
Hmm.
ran into some of the greatest teams of all time. They were just second every year. They weren't upset; they were just second, and that's where Southport have been. I think I think they're there. They're there. They're ready to go. They're going to be hungry, and if they can get everything to go right on the day, and if they get Gold Coast, they'll get them in Queensland,
Hmm.
which will be a big boost for them rather than having to come down here and beat a Victorian team on the big day. So it's the Sharks for me.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'm hoping finally the Sharks get it done, and I think it's hilarious that as somebody that listens to the Rush Hour, knowing that Billy Brownless from the Rush Hour was part of those Geelong teams that just could never get over the hump, and I know JB absolutely gives him a lot. It gives Billy Brownless a lot of stick for always coming in second, so that's why I had to chuckle a little bit as you brought up those Geelong teams of the past. Always fell short, so always made me chuckle a little bit. Really quickly, best and fairest winner. Can you pull it out of a hat? Because I mean, I'm gonna go for it. I hope to see Don Brew do it again. Honestly, that'd be fantastic for Werribee. But there's some incredible players this year. Who knows? Somebody that maybe catches your eye to maybe raise the best and fairest trophy at the end of the year.
Massive chance again, Don Brew. Don't get me wrong. He's absolutely fantastic player, and he's still a star. And if Werribee wins another half a dozen games on what they did last year, well, that's more opportunities for 3 votes for him.
Hmm.
A couple of guys who polled very, very well last year who will be around the mark again. Um, Henry Hustwaite at Box Hill will be hoping for a lot more games for Hawthorn, but if he doesn't get them, he's out at the moment with an ankle injury. He'll miss the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, which will affect his polling, and why I didn't end up picking him. But he's a big chance. Riley Bonner at Casey came second last year as a proven vote winner, and he'll be a poller as well. But the one I'm picking is the one I've just mentioned, coming straight out of 249 AFL games at a lower level, playing most games of the season. I reckon David Swallow is the one to beat going into the start of the season from the Gold Coast Suns.
Yep, definitely for sure. So now, originally we were going to discuss and explain the changes to the women's season and why we're not talking about it, but Transcontinental Internet has kind of thrown a giant wrench into that. So I think we'll push it, we'll kick the can later down the season and explain why the women are a little bit later when we preview the women later in the season. So let's hop right into it, Brendan. Let's get to round one. I know this video is probably going to come out after some of these games have already happened, so bear with us. We are tipping some games that have had finished and have had a result after this comes out. So bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, on this. So really quickly, so we don't screw up with this internet, let's go real quick. Let's give a tip and we'll get out of here. So starting off Thursday night, Thursday evening for me, a nice Friday afternoon footy for that. Box Hill, Sydney. Who do you like?
The 2 big outs from the Sydney AFL team will affect the VFL team pretty badly. So Box Hill Hawks, I think, might get the job done. First official game for premiership points at any level at Hawthorn's new facility, the Kennedy Community Centre. So hopefully there'll be a reasonable crowd on a Friday afternoon, but Hawks to win.
Yep, definitely for me. I agree that the two outs in the AFL I think will affect, especially with Cleary and the Corey Warner coming out. Those are two really solid players for that VFL team. So 100% with you. Got Box Hill in that one. Let's do GMHBA Stadium as the Cats take on the Bombers. Your thoughts on this one? I like the Cats in this one. If the Bombers AFL side is anything to indication how their VFL season is going to go, it could be a long year in Bomberland.
Yep, I think so. It's their 600th VFL game on Friday night, Essendon, but I think they'll find it a little bit tough going down to Cardinia Park. Geelong should be somewhere around about the mix of the bottom of the finals where they usually are, and I think they'll beat Essendon pretty comfortably.
Definitely for sure. Let's move on to the great old rivalry between Frankston and Williamstown at Kinetic Stadium down in Frankston. A cracking game here. Dolphins, Seagulls. Who do you like?
Always hard to beat down there, Frankston, especially since they've come good. Williamstown seem to have a pretty good record at it. I don't think they've actually lost down there for 20 years, and I don't think they're going to lose down there again this time. I think Frankston probably have a few too many injuries right now.
Dolphins for me on that one, but that's going to be a cracking game. Cannot wait for that one. Then also at Kinetic Stadium in Frankston, we see the Richmond Tigers take on the Southport Sharks. I believe this is because Punt Road is under development, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Punt Road out of action all this season again, as it was last year. So Richmond nomadic for most of the year, playing home games all over the place. Southport to win for me. Richmond can never be underestimated, and they did knock Southport off in this game a couple of years ago in round one, but that was at Punt Road Oval. But I think Southport should have too much class.
Yep, agree with you on that one. Give the Sharkies to me. Tom Willis Oval up in Sydney sees the Giants host St. Kilda, no longer connected to Sandy. So the St. Kilda Saints making a return to the VFL on this one. Giants, Saints, give me the Giants on this one. Being at home, as you kind of said, unfortunately, St. Kilda maybe from scratch. I think GWS has some experience in that. So I'm going to take the Giants in this one.
A little bit worried to see. I know it was only a practice match, but to see St Kilda be beaten by 100 points by the Casey Demons last week in a practice match and concede, I think, 54 points or 57 points to zero in the last quarter, that worried me. I don't have the Giants in the top 10, but I do have them beating St Kilda.
Yep, definitely. The
And
one,
congratulations to Ryan Hebron,
go
sorry, the
ahead.
GWS captain Ryan Hebron playing his 100th VFL games first up. So congratulations to him, and I think they'll get a win for him.
Fantastic, fantastic. The one that everybody is talking about, North Hobart Oval down in Tassie as the Devils make their debut in the VFL. And here you go. Welcome Coburg into Tassie. Devils get their first win, or does Coburg ruin the party down in the Apple Isle?
I think Coburg is going to finish the season probably higher than Tasmania on the ladder. I think they're going to have a very good year. But 11,000 screaming Tasmanians down there. There won't be many Coburg blokes who have played in front of a crowd like that. Their star midfielder Flynn Gentili is unlikely to be there due to injury. Um, and yeah, so I think the fairy tale happens for the Devils first up. I think they get the points and they go 1-0. So Tasmania for me.
Fantastic, fantastic. Tassie for me. Have to go with the story. Hope the Devils get that one. That'll be fantastic. Up to Witten Oval as the Footscray Bulldogs come into the season to take on Casey. A cracking game here at the Witten Oval. Who do you like in this one?
My match of the round as it stands should be an absolute ripper. The reigning premiers unfurling the flag on Saturday afternoon. Casey Demons coming off a huge win in their last practice match, which I just spoke about. Um, I think Footscray at home, they're very, very hard to beat anywhere, but at home in particular. And they had a good win over Werribee last week, and I think they'll back that up and get their premiership defence off to a good start.
Definitely, for sure. I am with you on that one. It's going to be a cracking game on that one. I love Footscray in this one. It'll be fantastic. Fun one up at People's First Stadium, a cracker between Gold Coast and Werribee. Can Werribee get that bounce back? Can they steal one in Queensland, or do the Suns stay at home? Who do you like in this one?
They actually can Werribee. This is the amazing one on their head-to-heads where up until, I think, one game last year, Gold Coast had won every game between these two teams in Victoria, and Werribee had won every game between these two teams in Queensland. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me to see the Tigers get up in this one. But if I've got Gold Coast being a top three team and a genuine premiership threat, I've got to tip them to win at home.
Yeah, I'm going to tip Gold Coast in this one. I think Werribee gives them an almighty crack. That'll be a fantastic one. And then the Sandy Dragons make again their re-debut as their standalone side, taking on Port Melbourne in this one. But unfortunately, I think the Borough do not welcome them nicely. I got Port Melbourne in this one to end this particular round of football.
Wish I could get a beer every time you called them the Dragons.
Ah, dang it. Sandy Zebras. I'm so used to the nap. I'm so used to the nap. I'm sorry. The zebras. I
Oh,
apologize.
no, it's terrific. It's terrific. We love it. We absolutely love it. The Zebras returning as a standalone club. It's a big day for them. I'm there on the AFL platforms. This is where you'll be able to hear myself and former Essendon player Dan Winkle will be on the call on Sunday, 2 o'clock Australian time, East Australian Eastern time. Sandy and Port Melbourne. It's time for Port Melbourne to deliver and actually start to make a move up the ladder. I haven't got them in the top 10. That's mainly through the strength of other teams. But they have to go to Sandringham and get the points. It's as simple as that. And I think they will.
Yep. One of these days, I'm going to remember Zebras, VFL, Zebras, VFL, Dragons, NAB, TAC Cup, all that, all the former names that it's been. One of these times, I'm going to get it figured out, but I'm just so used to hearing the name because they've been such a footy factory for AFL and all that. So, but no, Brendan, we've done it. We've gotten through this again. Sometimes the internet just does not like us. We've got through this. It's been so much fun. So excited for this. And my favorite part about this, Brendan, and I don't know, and some people I know I'm going to get a few messages off of this, is that you have the luxury, at least for me, that you'll be calling on a Sunday over in Australia. But as it's broadcasted over here, it'll still be my birthday on Saturday evening. So it'll be fun to hear you call the footy on my birthday, even though it's technically the 22nd where you're calling. One of the fun parts about the different times for
And,
me.
and I do
So
have to say that a massive happy birthday to you, Donny. Hope you have a great weekend. I know you've got a huge one planned with wall to wall sport, and you can't have a better weekend than wall to wall sport, can
yeah,
you? So
def
that will be absolutely fantastic. Hope you have a great weekend, a great day, and thanks once again for the support that you're giving to our game and taking it to the world.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So it's always fun. Is for those that are listening that don't know, it's with the NCAA basketball tournament up here. My birthday is always one of those fun weeks, and then the Swans are early. As we're speaking, it's probably only about 12 hours. It's a little less than 12 hours from when I'm talking to you when the Swans open up round two for the AFL. It's going to be a fun weekend of not only footy, basketball, but all sorts of stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this VFL season preview. We have gotten through it. So much fun. We will be hopping on here. We're going to try to do every 2 to 3 weeks. We'll have to see again 22 teams in the men's. When the women's get started, another 14. So always so much fun. So we will try to do as best we can to cover this amazing competition as much as possible. So keep an eye out. We will be back with more VFL coverage, and keep an eye out as more previews. I still have the waffle and the sandful still to preview and to get ready for those as the footy fun continues to get more and more fun for not only me, but for all of Australia. Cannot wait for it. So that was going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. If you like what you're listening to, please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.